All right, it's live. Okay, live for like 10 seconds. So it's 10 seconds like. Hello,
Okay.
parents. This is Coach John here from Learning Out of the Box. And how have you been? Hope that things are going well for you. And like what my friend Derek said, another 14 more days before the year ends. Hello, Derek.
Hello. Yep. Another busy year coming to an end. A lot of things moving in and out, up and down. A lot of changes as well. So yeah, we learn to adjust to it, cope, and then yeah, hopefully we can strive also, and hopefully 2022 shall be an awesome year for everybody.
Yes. So parents, you can sense the energy of Derek. So afterwards, he'll share with us more about what he does. But I think most importantly, why I invited Derek to come on board is because I think having a P5 to P6 child, as in my own girl, my own daughter going to sit for PSLE next year, and I think I also heard many children saying that percentage is really hard, and they don't like percentage. But at the end of the day, as parents, I mean, as Singaporean, we do have to like live in a HDB flat or a condo, depending on where you're staying. And then we do our own property estate planning as well, again, in our own ways, no matter how big or how small. I realized that percentage is something that we cannot escape. And even all the like 11/11 sale, 12/12 sale, all are based on percentage discount, right? The higher the number, the better it is. Yeah. So, okay. So Derek, welcome again. Could you share with us like what do you do now, and how do you get into this profession before we go on to the maths part of the discussion?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Derek. I'm in the real estate industry for 5 years. I have a child, 1 year, just slightly above 1 year old. So how do I get into this profession is really, when I'm planning my own real estate purchase, when I was when I get married, right, I realized that there's actually a lot of things that I can value add, I can learn, not just learn from, but I can also share the knowledge out. So which is why I decided to, why not make it a career as well? And that's how I started 5 years ago. So yeah, been very well, closing quite a number of interesting transactions, and here I am. Yep, with you guys.
Yeah. Awesome, yeah. And I think I also want to add on that I was there on your wedding day.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, time flies. Time flies.
Time flies. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So I think it's our first time having a property real estate professional on our show. But so I think let's break into context for the parents. Yeah. So
Sure.
okay. So I know that your child is eventually will be P1, right? Then taking maths. Yeah. So as a parent, how will you make math as part of a daily or how will you get your child interested in the math part?
Yeah, I think it's a very math is also depending on how interesting she is. But of course, one thing I know that is important is that I'll try to so-called link it up with things that she's interested in. Like I know that she loves to go to the market. And then of course, for if I'm talking about tying it with real estate, right? Then there's also the monopoly as well, which is very well received, because it gives the concept of like not just about real estate, about increasing your dividend or buying and selling. There's also a element of like fun. There's also an element, so it merges the property element and the fun element together in this sense. But of course, marketing wise, right, it will be interesting because in the market you always see people have like 10% discount, 20% discount. You see that, okay, buy one, get one free. So all these things is where, you try to integrate things that is interesting for my child as well. I think that's very important. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, and I realized that when I actually dabble into like, of course not buying and selling but
Yep.
got interested when my friends talk about the real estates and property investment, and I realized that the percentages and the numbers and very fast calculation seems to be part and parcel of such discussion. Yeah, so being a property guy and being a very expert in this in your own niche, right? So what can we do to really be able to digest all this in an easy way? But somehow when they talk, I got lost, like, oh my gosh, why are there so many numbers? And when I got lost and I asked myself, wow, is my math so poor or not? that I can't catch up.
Yeah, I think we can't, as a real estate consultant, right? We can't escape numbers. And the most important thing is that our role is not just about doing the calculation, but be able to dissect it easily for our clients as well. So generally speaking, I will cut it into three key components. The first component is what we call the planning stage. The planning stage, we are talking about to know, like, for example, what is the value of your current place right now, to get to know, like, okay, what are your current assets that you have at hand. For example, assets, we also talk about like your cash, your other investments, your stocks and your shares, your CPF that you have. That is the first aspect. The second aspect is we look at, okay, is the things that you're planning to buy, right? What is the budget that you need? And it's because the government in Singapore, right, there's a lot of percentage as well. We have the TDSR. If you know the recent cooling measures, we have some changes to the additional buyer stamp duties. We have additional changes to the loan to value ratio. So again, you can't run away from percentage. But what you need, right, is that knowing all this percentage, right, will help you to so-called know, okay, am I able to afford and buy all this, the property that I desire with the restriction or the sort of constraint that the government have actually put in place. These are the first key two components. The third component will be what we call the execution phase, because likewise, right, when you execute, there will also be things like you need to put a 1% option fee, a 4% exercise fee, and then a stamp duty of 4%, everything is about percentage, and then a 20% down payment. So the execution part, right, is really to ensure that, okay, you knowing all this percentage, you're able to know what is the cash flow that you need to put in place in order to make all these payments timely and orderly as well. So I would say these are the three key components where I really utilize math in helping my clients, and also of course helping myself as well. Yeah.
So the first one will be okay. So and I think from the way you say, I think you're so you are very knowledgeable, as well as everything seems to be at the tip of your finger. So okay, so let me see if I managed to catch what you say. Yeah, so the last part will be execution. Yeah, so the first part I guess would be the planning stage, right? Like what sort of property are you going to upgrade yourself to? And again, again, we are talking about percentage of your cash flow as well as percentage of what you can use to invest in your property. Yeah, so parents, I think if your child ever said that percentage is hard, right, I think they have not heard or gotten into some property discussion with you, like during a table talk. Yeah, so if let's say your it's a girl, right? Your girl, now is primary 5, and she said, "Hey, Papa, percentage very hard leh." So what will you do to help her to get more interested in percentage?
Well, this is a very tough question, because like in the first place, I also don't know whether what will be my goals. Comprehension of math be like. Well, of course, hopefully she won't have to ask that question. But of course, I think what is important is that he knows that Papa is very involved in knowing all this percentage in his day-to-day work. And I will always like some of what my colleagues are doing. They get their goals involved as well. It doesn't have to be involved in like, opening the house, seeing the house, but it can also be involved in like this very simple mathematics. But the important thing is that I want her to be involved and understand what I am doing. So likewise, it's like I want to be involved in her life. I also want her to be involved in what I'm doing as well. And most importantly is that she needs to know that Papa is proud and professional about what he's doing, and you should be proud about what your Papa is doing as well. So I think that is the key idea that I have in mind right now, of course.
Awesome. Yeah. So what I heard is getting your child to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we started off, I like what you said. You said that your child likes to go to NTUC. Tell us more about that.
I mean, like when she's outside, sometimes she can be a bit restless. But when she go to NTC, she see, so many choices of things, so many different colors, people roaming around, moving around. She see the price tag, and something somehow got her very excited. Yeah, so it also been like a interesting family trip to the supermarket just to expose her as well. Yeah, of course we hope to expose her to supermarket, but not expose her to any diseases lah. So that's the key thing, lor. Yeah, we really want her to be aware of what's happening as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think at the same time, while this interview was planned, like I think 1 month ago, right? And then I think we were not aware of the cooling measures that the government just introduced. Yeah, so probably to again, parents, this is not an advice, as in this is just for sharing. Yeah, so in case if you want to buy new properties, or you are considering to go into this area, please do your due diligence. Yeah. Okay. So I think could you share with us and help us to understand what are the recent cooling measures? Probably despite it's more for the parents lah, and then how does it affect us?
All right. So I will highlight it from a very so-called matter of fact way. The first thing I will say there are three major changes. All right. The first changes is the change to the additional buyer stamp duty. Basically, the second property that you purchased, right? Previously was 12%. It is increased to 17%. And so the second property, third property, and fourth property, right, also increased by 5% as well. As for foreigners, right, their additional buyer stamp duty, if there are some foreign parents over here, right, also increased from 20%. This one is a huge jump from 20% to 30%. So this is the first component, the additional buyer stamp duty. The second component is what we call the total debt servicing ratio, which means let's say as a household, right, as an individual, I'm earning $10,000, for example. 60%, previously 60% of what I've earned, right, $10,000 can be used to service loans, like for example, car loans, study loans, or housing loans. But it has been reduced from 60% to 55%. All right, that's the second change. The third change, right, is what we call the loan to value ratio for HDB loans. So if today you decide to buy a HDB loan, and you decide to take a HDB loan, previously you need to put in a 10% deposit. It can be cash or CPF. But with the cooling measures, right, it will be 15% cash or CPF. So these are the three key changes that the cooling measure has on board as well. As to how it will affect the parents, I will always say it will always goes back to, I always ask my clients is this, it's not about the market, but what are you planning to do? Because a lot of parents that I know, right, they are moving house, not for 2 things, space, and for the primary school to be within 1 or 2 kilometers. So with that in mind, right, I don't think you will want to not move because of the cooling measure, or you also will not want to not move because if let's say you really need a space for your kids. So again, do your due diligence, understand what is it all about, and then do your own calculations as well in terms of affordability before you make the next move. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So for parents, so whatever we share here is only for sharing purpose. Yeah. So again, consult your own professional property agent if you need some clarification. Yeah. And also before you take the action, like because I think that I like what you say, because as parents, we want the best for our kids. And I know that parents do shift houses to be nearer to the desired school. And I know of friends who shift a house and plan ahead, like maybe 5 years ahead or 4 years ahead before their child reaches primary 1. Yeah. So moving house is actually very true for many people who want the best for their kids.
Yep, you're right. Yeah.
So okay, so I think I'm also asking as a parent, and also asking for friends who have very young kids and they want to plan ahead. Like I got one friend who actually shifted to Toa Payoh from another place so that her child can get into the school that she wants.
Mhm.
Yeah. So again, as a layman, I'm not very sure what are options. Yeah. So could you share with us, like, so what are some of the housing arrangements that some parents do to that they do, such that they actually got into somewhere near, to stay somewhere near the child's school?
All right. So I think the first thing first is that they will ask them, a lot of them will ask, like, what are the options? Like, firstly, right, the schools they are targeting, right? They will first, I will ask them to, go and find out which phase will it be feasible, because there are some schools that are so popular, right? Even 1 kilometer, you also have your odds or your percentage to be able to get in is also very low. But having said that, if let's say they realize that, hey, the percentage to get into this school is much higher, will be very, very high. If let's say it's within 1 kilometer, then I'll ask them, there are actually typically two options. One is that you can actually buy a property within that 1 kilometer, or secondly, you can actually rent a property within that 1 kilometer radius as well. So the key thing is you need to know, like, where your current assets that you have, or where you are staying right now, right? Are you planning to looking at selling them, or do you want to just, keep that and rent a place that's closer to the school? But having said that, just to highlight, right, you need to stay there for at least 2 years, okay? After you get the enrollment, right, in order to continue to qualify in that school itself. So last time, previously, some people would just rent already, right, and decided not to stay there. But now they are stricter in terms of what you need to do after that in order to prevent any sort of like speculative behaviors. So I do have parents who just rent place to move over just to stay for that 2 years, 3 years before they actually eventually moved out. So again, it has to depend on your individual finance, your individual long-term plan as well. Because if you are planning to buy a place over there, right, if you're looking HDB, the MOP, which is the minimum occupation period of 5 years, will still apply. And if you go for private property, there will be a seller stamp duty imposed on you within 3 years from your purchase itself. So these are the numbers, right, that I will encourage my parents to be my clients to be very aware of when they decided to do this kind of movement.
From your experience, is there any pitfalls that some of your clients who are parents, that they only realize after they executed the decision, only to realize that, hey, actually they didn't calculate properly?
Yeah, okay. The number one thing that, okay, didn't happen to my clients, luckily. It happened to some of
other
my
clients.
Yeah, my colleagues clients, right, is that they calculate 1 kilometer, right? Then when they move into that flat, they realize that it's actually out of 1 kilometer.
Oh no,
That
then
one
what
is
happened?
the
Then
most
how?
common. So no choice, because they already signed off the tenancy agreement. They already signed off everything. Yeah, so that's the first pitfall. The second pitfall is that because they are in a rush to buy, right? So the emotions is high. So they actually bought, some parents bought way above market rate to buy into that area. So these two are the common things that I heard. And like I said, luckily it didn't happen to any of my clients, because I mean, I will do my due diligence to ensure that, everything, it is within what is their objective, which is, first, they don't want to overpay. Secondly, they also want to ensure that it's really within 1 kilometer. It's not, wow, disaster. Yeah.
So I'm very curious, like, or even such a mistake of like buying a house that you think that is within 1 km, but turns out to be more than 1 km. So how did this confusion even happen, and how can we make sure that, hey, our new house is within 1 km, or should we even make sure that it's probably give a buffer space within 800 meters just to make sure that it's within 1 km? So how can we prevent that?
Yep. Okay. So a lot of people, laymen, right? The easiest way out is they are trying to use, Google Map, and then after that trying to draw a line, and it's 1 kilometer. Yeah, it's quite interesting. But having said that, the right way is that there's actually a one map, a one map app, right, or a one map website that you can input the postal code of the place that you want to buy or rent, and then you can map it to the school that you are looking for. So that is the most accurate part. And I always tell clients, just in case, you should always take a screenshot, and then just take a screenshot to ensure that it is actually recorded in the website that it is really within 1 kilometer. Yeah, so always do not try to judge based on your instinct or your Google Map, but really go back to the source as well. Yeah.
Would there be cases that it's recorded as one km, then things change? Yeah, then it's not recognized as within 1 km.
Okay, so there's actually a change that happened early this year, or is it mid of this year? I cannot remember. So previously, right, just to share, previously the 1 kilometer is based on the center of the school. Okay, right in the middle of the school. Then after that, they changed it to include the boundary of the school. So what happened was that they did a calculation. There are 10% more properties, right, that's within that 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer radius after they did the change. So this change was made right somewhere this year lah. Yeah. So in fact, more properties are now actually within the boundaries instead. Yeah, with this change.
As you're sharing, one school came to my mind. I mean, my cousins were from St. Nicholas.
Okay.
And I remember entering the school when I was very young because of some family festival, yeah, and carnival lah. Yeah, so I was so amazed and impressed that the school was so big. And I can imagine the difference that it made from the center of the school versus 1 km from the boundary, because the school itself is like spanning across probably I mean, St. Nicholas is a very big school. Wow, I can imagine that there are more units. Yeah. So what about the next part that you say that what's the second mistake again?
Overpaying for the property itself. Yeah. Because I mean, the good thing about parents' heart is this: they always want the best for their children. So they realize that, okay, if this is the only property that's remaining, and the person is asking for a high price, right, then there's a high chance that some parents may just pay for the COV or above valuation price to get that property, and then when their kids are there, they decided to move out, right, they find that it's a very it will be difficult for them, what we call to sell their property and cash out from there, because ultimately, people will start to ask, hey, why is this price so high? Why are you buying at such a high price, and how do you justify wanting to sell at this high price, even higher price as well? Yeah, so the due diligence needs to be done. Like, for example, generally, like what we are talking about percentage, right, we'll try to match it with what is happening in the trend. Like, for example, if the whole entire area actually increased by 5%, so you should ask yourself, like, okay, if I'm paying 10%, 15%, is it really way above, what is happening around that area? And what is good is that the government makes sure that all the property data, right, are actually made available. So you can actually capture all this information or retrieve all this information very easily and quickly via a lot of government websites as well. Yeah.
What are some of the websites that you recommend?
Sure. So the basic ones, if it's from the government source, right, we have the HDB resale transaction price. And for the private properties, we have the URA website, which will capture all the transactions as well. There are also some private sites, like, for example, srx.com.sg. There's also Property Guru as well that will capture all this information. But basically what happens is that they are also pulling the data basically via APIs, right? They pulling data from all these government sources. And then what they do is that they layer in their own analysis, they are layering their own breakdown in terms of the numbers, etc., so that you are able to make sense that, okay, if you are looking at this price, is this above market rate? How much is it above market rate? And what is the estimated so-called market rate, right, based on the floor, based on the facing, etc. So there are a lot of different various sources that's made available, for any consumer.
There's one friend who told me that there's also one website called Square Foot, is it?
Yes, Square Foot. Yeah, but Square Foot, right, just to share the data that they are mining, right, is also a bit more extensive. May not be so easily understandable like by the layman. Like, they also talk about districts. They're also talking about appreciation. They're also talking about distance to the other projects. So there are more information, and generally the depth of the information has to be on a subscription basis lah. Yeah. So again, the key thing is this: even for properties, right? Sometimes for some of my clients, we also don't want to scare them with too many data as well. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that they understand things, the adequate risk, the adequate amount they need to put in, the cash flow. I think that is, I will say, the basic to start off with. And if they need the debt, right, that's where we will go into the debt to help them to, know what are some of the situations that's happening, what are the things that's going on in their estate or in their, their apartment or condo specifically. Yeah.
And I believe that there'll be some parents in our community who are looking at planning ahead, and especially we have some new parents with very young kids, and they already are in our Facebook group. So if they ever come across their own property agent or consultant, what will be some good questions that they should ask so that they get a clearer picture?
Well, some of the questions, right, that I will recommend people to ask is this. Firstly, is the first question is it's also a typical question that I'll get as well. First is the market condition. What are we looking at? Secondly, right, if let's say I'm going to sell my property now, or I'm currently staying in a property, if I were to sell it, right, what are my CPF that I will get in return and the cash proceeds? Because a lot of people are not aware that, okay, you are selling your house at, let's say, 700,000. They are not aware that you need to pay back a CPF accrued interest. And then the CPF accrued interest, if you pay it back, right, it will affect your cash proceeds. Because things like, for example, if you buy a new place, your renovation, or even you need to engage an agent, right, to help you to sell and to buy your properties, as well as your moving costs, like getting movers to move your place, or to dismantle certain things, right? All this you need to pay in cash. So I have cases before that I've heard, right, some clients, when they sell their property, they don't have cash proceeds at all. Yeah, and they are not able to, properly renovate their place or even properly, do their movements accordingly. So this is, I think, the most important thing for any client, regardless, is it private property or is it HDB itself? That's the first thing I think that they should ask. The second important thing is the cash flow, like I mentioned, because buying and selling, if you're transiting, right, there will be certain cash that you need in various percentage, right? Just how I mentioned about stamp duty, exercise fee, option fees, all these things. So there will be a certain timeline that you need to meet, because I've seen before some cases is that they mistook the timeline, and then the funds did not come back in time for them to actually pay for this. So in the end, they got sued, or they need to pay for damages because they are not able to pay in time. So that's the second portion, the cash flow and the timeline. And of course, the third portion will be, finally, right, the important thing is that if I'm selling at the market value, or am I buying way above market value? So I would say these are the three key components, or three major so-called questions that you would like to ask your consultant or your agent.
Yeah, and I think as a person as a parent, I think if we ever consider to look for or consult a property agent, I think personally we also want someone who can really plan, not just for us but also with us, because I think there's so much stuff to handle, and there are so much numbers to crunch, and of course percentages. It's like when I talked to Derek, right, wow, all the numbers just come in. I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm confused, because I thought that well, I'm very good with calculations, and until I meet Derek.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so the most important thing is we want to distill what is important to the clients, and we want to be able to let them know and be aware of what is happening as well. Because the role of a real estate agent has evolved. Previously, it's about, okay, you want to sell at this price, okay, I sell for you. What's your budget? You want to buy? Where you want to buy? Okay, how big you want? Okay, then I'll go and buy. Then I'll help you to buy. We have moved on from a brokerage, so-called a broker kind of model, or a middleman model, to a consultant model. So that's where I'm positioned myself to be. But it also means that math, right, is you can't run away from math. So if you really want to be on the other end, right, if you really want to consider a career change, you want to, go and be a property consultant, then that's where you cannot run away from math, and you cannot don't like math at all. Yeah, because it's an inevitable portion to the whole entire things that we want to, provide for the client. Yeah.
So say if I ever want to, so if a guy wants to ever transit or do a mid-career switch and become a property consultant, can they do the property part and outsource the calculation part?
Nowadays, right, there's this, people are looking at prop tech, whereby property technology. But the important thing is this, when previously I was in my previous profession, right, it's not about, data, right? It's not about being able to just crunch data and pull out data, but to really come out with what we call insights, right? To what are all these data meaning? What does it mean? Like, what does it mean to the clients? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the property market as well? Because there's also another component which I also like to do is that I try to analyze what is happening to the property market. All these are very number driven. That although you can pull out the number, I can give you, this is like 10, this is 20%, this is 10%. The market has increased by 5%. But if you cannot make sense of it, you cannot translate it to the needs of the client, okay, or you cannot, make it to actionable to what your client's issue is, right? Then you are not able to consult them at all. Yeah, so this is the key component you need to take note of to really be able to not just be good in the math, but also be able to translate them into actionable information.
So I like the part that you said that across the past few years, property agents have transit from brokerage transit from being a broker to a consultant. Yeah. So as a layman, how do we even differentiate that this agent is not a broker but a consultant, or how do we even sniff out agents who think that they are a consultant but actually they are just a broker? So what are some of the things that we can get so that we are able to do our own due diligence in choosing the right kind of agent who really work with us and have our interest at heart?
Right. I mean, to really be able to dissect whether they are broker or agent perspective, right? I think now with information, right, you're able to so-called pull up certain information from the internet. Like people are reading, nowadays people are telling me they're reading articles from Stack Homes, H-Prop. So you can always start off by, preparing some questions to ask your consultant. But importantly, right, you need to also know that what are the kind of consultant that you need as well. Like, because there are some consultants, they are very good at, numbers, crunching numbers, because they focus on investment. There are also some so-called consultant, right, that specializes in like landed properties, etc. So you need to know what are you comfortable with there, because likewise it's a human to human touch. Like, you might be very comfortable with me, but doesn't mean that it will be true for your family as well. And the last question that you mentioned, interest at heart, right? I mean, this one will have to really come from your own personal interaction with the agent to really know whether are you comfortable and are you able to trust the agent enough to proceed. Because likewise, right, just to highlight, there's also a lot of the onus is also on the agent as well. Because if we were to give misinformation, we were to misrepresent, or we are not truthful in our conduct, right, there will also be disciplinary action that we need to undertake. And the last thing you want is that your livelihood as an agent, the license, right, to be affected as well. So there's a regulation portion that we also need to be mindful of. But of course, the important thing is you need to know what you would really want out of the consultant yourself as well, and you need to make your own judgment call.
Got it. Yeah. So to make the own judgment call, what I got out from what you say is we also first need to know what our needs, because I think different parents are from different income brackets and probably at also different phase of their investment stages as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So find the right kind of agents who are specialized in their own niche. Just like a teacher who specializes in science works differently from a teacher who specializes in English or maths. Yeah. So likewise, agents, some specialize in probably industrial, some specialize in private estates, some specialize in probably 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. I'm not sure whether I'm making sense, because I'm just putting out anything from the air.
Yeah, no worries. But importantly, you have to be comfortable and trust that consultant that you work with. On top of like the skill set as well that you mentioned, if you ask a few questions, you ask them to calculate some math for you, they are not able to answer, then you know that skill set wise they are not really that suitable as well. So yeah.
So I like what you say. Yeah. So again, I like the part that you draw me back to the maths, because in fact, what I brought you on is I just want the hope that this sharing inspires some kids who do watch our B videos that you can't escape from percentage, and let these two okay, me is uncle lah. Now this is Coco Derek much younger than me. Yeah. So we just want to share with you that actually, you can't escape from maths. Even you go shopping, then the person say, this one is 20% off. If you buy 3, is maybe got more percent off, right? Then how do you do a calculation fast to know whether it's worth the money or not? Yeah. So back to real estate planning, we're talking to agents, and you mentioned that, okay, so if you give some numbers and ask for some numbers back, and the agent is like blah blah, don't know what she's doing, then that's possibly a red flag. So could you like share with us like maybe 1 or 2 more? So what are some of the possible red flags that this agent, well, I know that she's good in her own rights, but something is off there. So what could be some of the red flags?
I think the first and most important thing is that if you ask the person, like, okay, what is the maximum loan I can take? And the person, the correct answer is, if you are taking a bank loan, it's 75%. If you're taking a HDB loan, it's 85%. After the cooling measure. So if they are not able to even answer that, right, then you know it's a very big red flag, because the most important thing a client need, right, is really to be able to take loans for housing. But of course, I don't know about some of your viewers here, if they are like, they are those kind to take a checkbook and then sign $2 million the way I buy a house, then they may not need to take a loan. So that's the first red flag, I would say. The second thing is, of course, to ask them about the timeline. So if they are not able to give you a clear breakdown of the timeline and what you need to pay during all this timeline, like for example, what is the option fee that I need to put in for private property? If they tell you, 20%, then it's wrong. The answer is actually option fee is around 1% in cash. So these are the questions, right, that I would say are basic, but at the same time will help you to raise red flags, whether they know their stuff or not. You'll be surprised, some of them, they don't even know this.
What say also they are new in the field, and if they're new in the field, could we also be nice enough to give them a chance to exercise for us?
I think there's 2 ways to see it, because sometimes there are some agents, right, they are so experienced that they get a bit complacent. Whereas for newbie agents, right, sometimes when they start off, I mean, every one of us, we are new in certain things, in certain ways. But if the person is willing to go the extra mile to help you to double check certain things, or to be assured that certain things are done properly, etc., and he or she has a very good mentor to help, so I will say, why not give that person a chance? Like because sometimes the energy that they give, right, is actually tremendous. Why not give them a chance as well? But of course, at the end of the day, you also need to know what do you need out of the agent. If you really need the agent to be really very, very fast, very, very quick, and then maybe you will really want to prefer an experienced agent. But if you really want some advice, you want a meticulous agent, right, then maybe a new agent will work as well in that sense, because he or she could be really taking at the extra step to be very meticulous, since you are his first or second client.
So it goes down to your interaction with the agent, and it's really up to you, like, to decide if this agent is new but high energy, and she comes in very fast, and of course she's not sure, she will tell you she's not sure, but she checks for you and get back to you fast. Probably you can decide if you want to continue the relationship. And I think what I like about it and what I learned here is looking beyond the agent, because I know that the property agents or consultants now do work as a team, and some of them do get many very good mentors, and probably that one is also an extension of the agent giving you more help in a sense.
You're right.
Wow, this is so cool. Okay, so having said that, okay, I'm not sure if I should ask this, but I think I'm very nice, and sometimes when we change the agents, right, or change vendors, sometimes we just scared that if you tell them that we don't need them, it breaks their heart. So in your experience, so what will be one of the nicest way to say that, to tell them that probably I don't need you now. I want to change you to someone else. So in your as an agent, what will be one of the most gracious way to say it, so that both ends off on a good note lah?
I think in that sense, right? Like what they always say, every breakup it won't be 100% like all good lah. But of course, there are always yeah. If you're talking about percentage, right? I always like this saying. Life is 10% of what happened to you, and 90% of how you deal with it. So even as an agent myself, right? I also get like I don't want to work with you anymore. I also have clients that okay, I bring in the buyer bypass, and then they decided to transact directly. So there are a lot of different cases that we experience as well. But like I mentioned earlier on, I subscribe very strongly that life is really 10% of what happened, 90% of how you deal with it. And if let's say you really, really would want to, try a new agent or somehow want to end a relationship with your current vendors, right? I think the most important thing is be transparent about it. Don't try to hide. I mean, I have cases where we break off because they say that I let you try for 3 months already. We didn't see the results at this moment in time. We like to just try a different approach. Yeah, I have also cases whereby after they try a different approach and they decided that hey, actually I still like Derek the most, then they come back as well. So for me, my way of working is firstly, if I work with my clients, then that we are talking about partnership. Firstly, we are talking about adding value to each other, and secondly, we are talking about transparency as well. So sometimes I will also give them a clear understanding. Let's say I'm selling their house, right? Like how many people actually view their house, and then how many people are interested, how many of them reject certain things. So I also give them a percentage of like who come and view your house, who really love your house, who say they don't like your house, and also the objections like the 20% who decided not to buy your house, right? What is the reason behind it, lah? So really percentage cannot run away, lah. Yeah.
It's like it goes back to like conversion percentage as well.
Yes.
I mean, it may not be because of the agent, it may be because of the house.
Yeah, but at least we give them what I aim to do is that I give them the information. They are able to, see that this is what is happening. I mean, of course, we do our due diligence. I mentioned, let them know what is happening, what is the reason why things are not moving, and what are the various objections that people will have about the house. Then from there on, we will give some other advice as well. Like for example, do we need to lower the asking price? Do we need to do video marketing, or do we need to, even do an overhaul in terms of the house rental, etc. So these will give them the percentage and all these things, right? These breakdowns of all these numbers, right? Will help them to make a very informed decision of what they need to do, even during the marketing phase itself as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that some parents do come back to you. So if any of our parents wants to find you, just to clarify whatever matter, so where can they find you?
They can ask you for my number, but if they really want my number is 9783964. They can drop me a call. They can go through Facebook, message me, etc. Or they can ask you for my number if they need me. Yeah, so there are various ways to contact me. We are always quite connected as well, but don't call me at 2 a.m. I do want to take a nap, and sleep at 2 a.m. Yeah.
You can call him at 2:01.
Wow, I don't like that.
No. Please,
Yeah.
okay, please don't call. Yeah. So again, parents, this is a session that we want to give back to the community. It's not that I have transited to selling properties online. Yeah. So whatever we do, I get nothing out of it, right, Derek?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So So I think we are going to end off soon. 1:46 already. Okay. 2 more things. What will be your takeaway for parents? Because I know that so many stuff, and I think when I first heard you talk, you provide so much value. At the same time, I think I feel overwhelmed with all the information. Yeah, especially when it comes to all the number crunching and the government regulations as well as the estate planning as well. So what will be your takeaway for parents who are looking at this? Because again, we are all at different phases of our life. Yeah. So what would be your advice for them?
I think when people think about properties, right, somehow everybody, the first thing they think about is making money. Yeah. My personal first takeaway is this: not just about making money, but to be very sure, right, by making this choice that you're making, right, what is the risk that you need to undertake? And the second component is this risk, right, if it translates to your day-to-day expenses, your kids, your upcoming expenses, right? What does it entail as well? So I would say risk be not just to be blindsided by the potential gain that you have, but to also be very aware of the risk that you can undertake. And this risk portion, right, can be also be taken from a mathematics standpoint. Like one thing that I always share with my clients is this: if let's say there's a loss of income, okay, or on both end or even one end run of the parents, right? How long are you able to support the mortgage itself? And that's the first part. And the second part is linking back to what is currently trending, right? Do not just look at, okay, I'm actually able to afford this property based on like a certain percentage of the interest rate right now. But take into account that interest rate can fluctuate. And if it fluctuates upwards, right, is that comfortable for you? Is that comfortable, or is that something that you can undertake? The last thing you want to do, right, as a parent is that because you need to service the mortgage, you didn't take into account the risk involved, right? You did not you affected your family, and the important thing, it affected your life as a parent. You're not able, because you need to spend time to work even harder. You're not able to spend time helping your children and spending time with your children. So I would say these are my few key takeaways. Yeah.
So parents, as what Derek said, please do your risk management. Yeah, if you ever are going to this part of your life that you plan to shift house or upgrade or to downgrade or whatever. Yeah. And again, just a disclaimer again, these are not investment advice. I mean, I gotta do this because when I always attend those investment talks, right, they always say that, hey, this is not an investment advice, and and it never dawned on me that I have to say this in one of my my Zoom live. Yeah.
No worries. I mean, I understand where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Because property, even when buying or selling property or investing in the property, there's always the so-called the potential upside that some people may oversell on it, but there's also the other side, which is the risk involved as well. Yeah, so that is the key thing I want to highlight. And I really, for me especially, I'm very focused on the risk aspect for my clients. Yeah, because the last thing you want is that you don't want them, you see them on the street and then you realize that they're actually not doing very, very well because of the advice that you have given them on the property that you ask them to buy and transact. So that's the important thing for me. Yep.
Hey, thanks so much for sharing. And normally when we end off the sharing, I will always ask my guests the same question. Yeah, okay. Okay, so and I know that you're much younger than me. I can see, okay, all see from here. Yeah. Okay, so if I invite the now that Derek go back to the younger self, the 12-year-old self. Yeah, then as you walk down the memory lane, you see the 12-year-old Derek looking at you and got so close that you can massage him. What will the current Derek tell the 12-year-old self? Anything?
Well,
yeah, no right or wrong.
I would say be very sure. Not say be very sure. Just be proud of who you are and what you stand for, and know that some people may feel otherwise, or they may say that Derek is not like that. You are not. But you should be firm on who you are, and then really leave what I say. Life is 10% of what happened, and 90% of how you deal with it. So I hope that the 12-year-old me will be able to deal with the 90% much better. Yeah, that is what I would say to the 12-year-old me back, if I'm able to. Yeah.
So it's not what life has happened. It's okay. It's not what's in life has happened. It's really how you respond to life.
Yes, you're right. Yep. 10% of what happened, 90% of how you deal with it.
Well, I can't believe it. We start with percentage, then we end off with percentage.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is one of the sessions or the only session that talks mostly on percentage.
Yeah, of course. I'm invited by you to talk about math. So of course we have to have all the percentage involved as well. But yeah, these are the things I really subscribe to and believe strongly as well.
Yeah. And children, if you ever want to consider being an agent in the future, It doesn't need to be property or insurance. I mean, we are not even sure what sort of things are out there for our kids in the next 10 to 15 years. Yeah. So one thing for sure, you can't get away or run away from percentage. Even you go shopping in Shopee or Lazada, every month you'll be swarmed with all those how many percent off lah, how many percent off lah, every month leh.
Yep.
Yeah, and Christmas sale is coming soon.
Yes. Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, can buy more Pampers.
Yeah, no. At a good discount, I hope. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so parents, thanks so much for being here. I hope today's session is a bit interesting for you. Okay, and again, the reason why I do this is because we want to support parents who still teach our kids and sometimes when we teach our kids, we do want to use practical examples to share with them. Hey, actually, maths is something that is it impacts our lives from birth to death Yeah, like even for us, all of us stay in a house, right? The parents are paying the mortgages, shifting houses, and you'll definitely face percentages as your friends Yeah, so maths is around us. Okay. Derek, thanks so much for your time. Don't go off first. Let me just end off the Facebook Live and then
Sure. Okay.
You'll just carry on from there.
No problem.
Okay, so
thank you.
Thanks again, Derek. Okay, parents, thanks so much for being here. Again, this will be the last. I think it should be the last for this week before Christmas. I hope that next session I can bring on my good friend Leon. You saw him on MasterChef, yeah, and also now he is contesting for the S-Pop. Yeah, I'm not sure is it over already.
Oh, Leon Lim, is it? Leon
Yeah,
Lim.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also a friend.
I
see. But he say he's only free next week. Yeah. Okay, parents, bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And make sure that you don't give your kids math homework on the day. They deserve to have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.